Hi everyone, and once more welcome to BN Moment. For the past 6 months, many countries have been suffering from severe health crises due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and Cameroon has not been left aside. As a result, many activities in different sectors of the society are on a standstill, some altered and some totally shut down. We usually hear of the impact of COVID-19 on the economy and the impact of COVID-19 on education. Where do we hear about the impact of COVID-19 on the legal society? My take for today is, what is the impact of COVID-19 on the legal society, and what are the legal implications of COVID-19 on the society? Today, to throw more light on this topic, I have with me two young and dynamic legal practitioners. I call them Cameroon's new generation legal minds. They both practice in the most or one of the most prestigious law firms in Cameroon, the Nico Hale and Co. law firm. Please hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you later. It is my immense pleasure to present to you baristas Vanessa Hale and John Hale. Welcome to this program, and thanks for accepting my invitation.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here.
Yeah, the pleasure is ours.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Permit me profile you a little.
Okay.
Vanessa Hale, you're a barrister and solicitor at the Cameroon Bar, and you're a barrister and advocate at Lincoln's in England. Am I correct?
Well, yes, technically, because I mean the Lincoln's Inn is the inn that calls you to the bar, so it's just like a body. And in England we have just 4 inns, so that's the oldest inn, and in that I am a barrister in Cameroon, solicitor in Cameroon as well. But in England I'm just a barrister of England and Wales. Yes.
Okay. So what is the big difference between being a barrister in England and in Cameroon?
Well, I guess it will be more to do with regard to the processes, to do with the judicial system as a whole. There, we have it's split. So here we have, I'm a barrister and solicitor, for example, but in England, the barristers are a different profession from the solicitors. So the barristers will take the bar vocational course, and then you get called to a bar by one of the 4 inns, which one is the Lincoln Inn. Then we have Grey, Inner Temple and Middle Temple. And then if you want to become a solicitor, you have to take the LPC course.
Yeah, the LPC.
And then now that's when you're done now, you're able to work in a firm. So in the UK, we have law firms, and then we have chambers.
Chambers, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hale John, you're a barrister and solicitor at the Cameroon Bar, and you're an attorney at the New York State Bar.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Why am I asking the difference? Because in Cameroon we're talking about bar and solicitor, but in the US you're talking here about an attorney.
About attorney, yeah. In Cameroon, as my eminent senior colleague here has very eloquently put it, in Cameroon, we can double up as both a barrister or a solicitor, depending on the jurisdiction we are practicing in. If we're practicing in the Anglophone jurisdiction, you can double up as a barrister and solicitor. In the Francophone jurisdiction, like where we are, solicitors have a different calling. But that said, we are still termed barristers and solicitors. Whereas in New York, the word or the appellation attorney is just another way of saying lawyer or advocate or barrister. Okay. Because the job of a solicitor in the U.S., it's a bit different. There are certain services which an attorney can do, and there are others which are strictly the role of a notary public or other court official. So there is that little nuance, but essentially attorney is just another way of saying an advocate or a barrister or a lawyer, you know, so pretty much that is it.
Thank you very much for that explanation.
Okay.
Okay. So it's more about a discussion. It's not an interview. It's about a discussion. We are having an exchange.
Absolutely.
Because we want to learn, I want to learn, and those who will be watching probably want to learn something about the legal field. So my first question will be, as I said, directly first, what's the key point of our exchange is the Covid-19 pandemic. So what is the impact of Covid-19 pandemic in the legal society? Has that affected you as barristers?
By that you mean how has it affected the legal profession?
Exactly.
I think I'll allow my senior colleague start on that. I mean, there is so much to say that, you know, it will be very exhausting. You know, so I think she should start, and then I could always, you know, complete it.
Okay.
Since you're asking about, you know, the impact on the legal society, and you talked about our practice as barristers, I think, and solicitors. I think one of the things, one of the impacts of the COVID is that it has changed the way in which we exercise our practice. We now have what we call remote work. Previously, as we were so attached to the office, you know that you're coming at 8 because you have all your physical files, and you know, when you're not in your office, it's almost like you can't really do any effective work. But I think that with the COVID, it has, and us working remotely, it has actually changed the work environment, because now many law firms have actually look at how do you back up your data, how do you make this your information and all your files accessible to all the relevant persons, and to enable them to actually serve the clients even when you're working, you know, offline or when you're working remotely. So there is that one aspect, and there's also the fact that we've had to be a lot more IT conscious. Gone are the days when it was just, you know, paper files and everything. Now we find a way to digitalize everything to not only make it easily accessible to everyone, but in such a manner that we are able to also deal with our international clients, or even the local clients. Instead of having face-to-face meetings now, we use various video conferencing tools, you know, and those are some of the ways in which I would say is a positive impact, actually, because now we are, you know, the legal system is becoming a little bit more tech savvy and taking into account some things which previously were not taken into account in regard to the work environment at that. Now the legal society, we're going to be honest talking about the drop in work in terms of the very few people are looking to invest at the moment. Very few people are not everyone is looking to, you know, create a legal entity. Not many people are looking to get into contracts, because now we have the whole, how do we execute the contract? We are not unsure of the terrain. We don't know how December will look like. What's the performance of the contract like?
Absolutely.
So there are so many people now who are a little bit lackadaisical in terms of getting into any business agreement with another person, because you're not sure on how you could enforce it in 1 or 2 months. What if it's not performed? And so it has inherently reduced the workflow or the incoming into many law firms, as well, especially if you're mostly dealing with business formation. But again, business is still ongoing. So the flip side is that there are businesses who are now into, masks, pharmaceutical businesses, for example. If you're looking at intellectual property, is actually on the boom because there are a lot of maybe inventions coming up. There are a lot of designs with regard to face masks that they're protecting for IP. Yeah. We're also looking at trademarks, which are being, for safety wear, for masks, and for hand sanitizers, all those kind of things. We have a lot of hand sanitizers that have come up into the market, and many businesses have now extended their IP to cover those kind of products. So that therefore means that you as a lawyer, what you have to advise your client on, their rights and obligations, on the pitfalls, what to do, how to avoid, any mishaps in future with looking at legal compliance and risk advisory services that you're able to offer your clients, because now a client wants to know what's my risk in investing in this country at this particular time or in this particular sector, and as a lawyer you're supposed to be able to do that. So on one side you see that there is a seeming drop in activities, but then when you look at it, the fact that the COVID has actually opened more areas of practice. And I think it kind of helps the lawyers themselves to keep abreast, because the danger is a lawyer doesn't, not all lawyers do what we call continuous professional development. So some don't read a lot, or some don't keep very, abreast with new regulations in different countries. But I think now we can say some lawyers have enough time on their hands, and we can sit back and surf the internet and look at, what does this country say about, this particular instance, and look at, the law in a more global view.
Yeah. What about court sessions? No more court sessions, or very few? Or?
Yeah, I think in the same. In the same vein, I think the impact has been a bit of a double-edged sword, in the sense that in certain respects, I would say it's been beneficial, whereas when I say beneficial, that's maybe I'm overdoing it, but there have been advantages, but given the devastation that this pandemic has caused globally, things remain a bit bleak. When we're talking about practice, this has made us understand that there is not just one way to work. Lawyers and legal practitioners have been able to come up with different ways of, entertaining or meeting or conversing with their clients, different ways of doing work. Like my colleague said, different ways of storing data. And different aspects of practice have popped up. Now you have a lot of lawyers who are more involved in tech, in data, entertainment, financial tech. All of that has made us understand that the traditional mode of practice, which is litigation, which is, representing the interests of the client before the judiciary, slowly that is being kind of watered down, or should I say mitigated, by other means of resolving disputes, such as mediation, arbitration, and conciliation. These are relatively smaller proceedings which can take place through a virtual means. You can easily handle an arbitration proceeding using WebEx or Microsoft Teams or Zoom than if you're going to handle a trial. You understand? Because of the nature of it, it is not, I would say the logistics are not that sophisticated compared to a, court hearing. And you will bear with us that when this thing started, around the month of March, there was a suspension of court matters, which went on for some time. Then subsequently, I think the authorities realized that, look, this is rather detrimental. So they came up with mechanisms of allowing court matters to go on, but with safety measures, preventive measures. For example, not allowing more than 50 persons in the courtroom, or keeping appropriate
Social
distance.
distanciation.
Wearing your mask. Sanitizing. All of that. For me, I would prefer we have to deal with those measures and activities keep going than for court to be locked down totally. How do you administer justice?
Exactly.
How do you, even if we're going to say, okay, look, we're going to confine ourselves, we're going to quarantine, justice still needs to be administered in every society. So I guess I would say the legal society, we were able to sufficiently mitigate corona, and we've been really blessed with the fact that the toll, the mortality rate has not been as terrible as it is in other areas, in other continents. Because if that were the case, and when I see how our activities, our operations are carried out, and seeing that we are still very much in this bubble, I think it could have been much worse. I think it could have been much worse than what it is. So, talking about court matters, grosso modo, yes, it was necessary that, they were suspended for some time for us to see, how to proceed in this, can I say, quagmire. But then mitigating it with preventive and safety and health measures has enabled for justice to be continually and continuously being administered. So I think, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. It's given us legal practitioners a different view, a different impetus, a different vision. We've seen that, look, okay, things are tough, work is slow coming in, people don't want to invest, so they don't need legal counsel. Our ports, our borders are closed. I'm an expert in immigration law and practice, so you can imagine if our borders are closed down for 6 months, no one is coming in, no one is going out. I cannot do visas, I cannot do work permits, I cannot do residence permits, I cannot do visas on arrivals. You can understand how that limits my work, right? But then again, I look at other avenues of practice. I talked about technology, information. I talked about data. I talked about, there are so many ways, there are so many other avenues that if you focus and put your energy in, you will have proper remuneration and benefit. And I think in saying that it's a double-edged sword, yes, we've suffered as a legal community. We've suffered with reduced or less work. We've suffered in reduced or less income. But I think we've also gained, for those who want to, we've gained in the sense that we've evolved. Legal practice has evolved. It's no longer the traditional areas of practice. There are new areas which we are now getting involved in. New areas that have to do with the digital, this digital era, this digital evolution. Cyber security, now we are talking. Data compliance, all of them. Those are areas in which, we had to get into out of necessity. So we're not thanking Corona.
No, definitely not.
We're not thanking Corona for enabling us, see things a different way. But we are saying, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade.
Lemonade.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.